In the mid-20th century, the great romantic novel was undoubtedly Boris Pasternak's Dr. Zhivago. Its very publication was a story in itself. Pasternak was firmly behind the Iron Curtain, and his work was rejected for publication in the Soviet Union. However, Pasternak managed to get his manuscript to Italy, where it was first published in 1957. The author greeted the development with a moment of dark humour, saying that the publisher, Gian Giacomo Feltrinelli and his associates, were invited to his death by firing squad. Such was the risk of any criticism of the country's ruling ideology. While Pasternak was able to avoid such a dreadful fate, the Soviet Union did denounce the novel in the strongest terms in the state-owned press, but this only helped guarantee its enormous publicity and success in the West, along with a little help from the CIA, who were looking to embarrass their communist adversaries. As a result, it spent a full 6 months as the best-selling book in the United States. It tells the story of Yuri Zhivago, a doctor and poet, and his ill-fated love affair with Lara Antipova as they make their way through Russia's turbulent history in the first half of the 20th century. Oh, what a love it was, utterly free, unique, like nothing else on earth. Their thoughts were like other people's songs. The extraordinary success of the novel made a film adaptation seem inevitable, and the great director David Lean took on the challenge in 1965 with Omar Sharif and Julie Christie as Yuri and Lara.
Yes. How are you? What are you doing here? Zarikino.
Boris Pasternak never had the chance to see the film, though. He died just 3 years after the book's publication, having been at the centre of a Cold War literary battle. In 1958, he was awarded the Nobel Prize for Literature, but was pressured by the Soviet Union not to accept. The situation was summed up perfectly by the political cartoonist Bill Maudlin. The film adaptation of Dr. Zhivago was just as much a success as the novel, and Pasternak's legacy continues to this day. His great work is now even taught on a Russian school syllabus, showing the power of great literature to overcome any obstacle. While readers were falling in love themselves with the tragic romance of Dr. Zhivago, they were also going wild for a story of love for sale by Truman Capote. Breakfast at Tiffany's, Capote's novella about the social calendar of Holly Golightly, an American geisha, as the author puts it, was first published in Esquire magazine in 1958, where it was an immediate sensation. Capote himself would later read from the book in front of an enraptured New York crowd in 1963.
Would you like me to read a scene from Breakfast at Tiffany's? Either that or a story. Her dispraising eyes surveyed the room again. What do you do here all day? I motioned toward a table tall with books and paper. Write things. I thought writers were quite old. Of course, Deroyan isn't old. I met him at a party and really isn't old at all. In fact, if he'd give himself a closer shave. By the way, is Hemingway old? In his 40s, I should think. That's not bad. I can't get excited by a man until he's 42. I know this idiot girl who keeps telling me I ought to go to a head shrinker. She says I have a father complex, which is so much merit. I simply trained myself to like older men, and it was the smartest thing I ever did. How old is Douglas Somerset Maugham?
Capote moved in glamorous circles, and many of his famous female friends claimed that Holly Golightly, who shocks the New York scene with tales of her dramatic private life, was based on their own life story. Capote himself saw Holly as a Marilyn Monroe type and pushed for her to be cast in the film adaptation, but Golightly would eventually become an iconic role for Audrey Hepburn.
I'm sorry. Is he all right?
Sure, he's okay, Auntie Pat. Poor old Pat. Poor slob. Poor slob without a name. Well, look at it, I don't have the right to give him one. We don't belong to each other, we just took up by the river one day. I don't even want to own anything until I can find a place where me and Timmy go together. Not sure where that is, but you know what it's like. It's like Tiffany's.
Tiffany's? You mean the jewelry store?
That's right. I'm crazy about Tiffany's.
The sharper edges of the novel were filed down in the movie adaptation, and a classic Hollywood ending was added when it doesn't appear in the original novella. But then, what else could you expect from a Hollywood adaptation? The film has overshadowed the original novel, perhaps, partly thanks to Hepburn's stunning Givenchy wardrobe, but it remains one of the quintessential works of the darker side of romance. The link between literature and film adaptation reached its zenith in 1970 with the publication of Love Story by Eric Segal. The immensely popular book was originally written as a screenplay before the author was told to convert it into a novel first, where it became an immediate bestseller with a built-in catchphrase.
Jenny, I'm sorry.
Don't. Love means never having to say you're sorry.
Since Love Story, the best-selling novels that have quickly made their way to the big screen include The Bridges of Madison County and The Notebook. But more recently, there's been a return to adaptations of older romantic novels, including James Baldwin's 1974 work, If Beale Street Could Talk, which deals with the trials and tribulations of the couple Tish and Alonzo against a Harlem backdrop. It's a miracle to realize that somebody loves you. In 2018, If Beale Street Could Talk was adapted into an Academy Award-winning film by director Barry Jenkins.
I slept in this bar sometimes. It's not a good idea.
Why'd you sleep in the park?
It was late. I didn't want to go home. I didn't want to wake none of y'all up either. But I got me a pad down here now. So you want to eat down here, or you want to wait till we get uptown? Or do you want to go to the movies? Or do you want a little wine, Or a little pot? Or a little beer? Or a cup of coffee? Maybe you just want to walk around until you make up your mind.
Baldwin's work will likely see further film adaptations. As F. Scott Fitzgerald showed, it can be decades before a novel finds its way onto the big screen. Romantic literature will continue to captivate readers just as it always has, and the best-selling stories will have adaptations eagerly anticipated, just as new versions of classic tales of love will continue to be desired. But there's always a chance of a less well-known work of the past finding a new audience in a new generation.